listening to the Digital Signage Today podcast.
Hello and welcome to today's podcast for Digital Signage Today. Today I'm your host, Bradley Cooper. I'm the editor of Digital Signage Today. Today I'll be joined first by Suzanne Cluckey. She is the editor of ATM Marketplace. She'll be talking about digital signage in the banking space. Then later we'll be joined by Sean Matthews, CEO and president of Visix, who will be talking about some trends in customer experience technology. Do you want to communicate better? Visix can help you engage, excite, and inform your audience with award-winning digital signage software, content designs, and room signs. We're passionate about visual communications, and we're here to ensure your digital signs fit your culture, infrastructure, and budget, so you can communicate better. Learn more today at visix.com. Welcome back to the Digital Signage Today podcast. Today we're going to be talking to Suzanne Cluckey, who is the editor of ATM Marketplace and World of Money. And we'll be talking to her about digital signage in the banking world. The banking world has been very innovative with digital signage, both with attracting new customers and also keeping their employees informed. So with that, let's welcome Suzanne to the podcast. Suzanne, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Bradley?
Doing great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Great. So our first question today is, how are banks using digital signage in your experience?
Well, actually, they're using it in a number of different ways. With branch transformation being such a big deal now with banks, trying to make the consumer experience in the bank more richer and more connective. Banks are using digital signage in ways that attempt to connect more deeply with the customer. And so they're thinking through the customer experience, how they want to relate to their customer, what their message is, just how they want to create a relationship.
Great, thank you. So in your opinion, do you believe they are using it effectively? Why or why not?
Well, Bradley, it's like anything. It depends on how you use it. Some banks are using it. Obviously, some banks are using it better than others, but there are banks that are using it to indicate wait times for customers, to engage customers during wait times with product messages or community messages that seem to shorten the wait time for the customer so that they're actually engaged with the bank while they're waiting, but not thinking about the fact that they're waiting. So, what that's like when you're standing in line with nothing else to think about. So, there are banks that are using it for product messages about product offers. A lot of community banks are using it really effectively to communicate about their involvement with the community, either community activities or stories about, for instance, with a credit union, it might be a story about a member who had a particular success thanks to a bank product. So there are a lot of different ways they're using the signage, but some of the most effective ways are actually when you try to create that, that sense of belonging with the customer or member, so that that person feels like, that they're at their institution, that they're at their bank when they're standing in the lobby and waiting. So.
Yeah, thank you. So there's obviously a lot of new trends coming out in banking technology. I mean, we talk about them a lot on our various websites like blockchain, fintech, or even, better digital signage. So what do you see as sort of the top trends in banking technology?
Well, in terms of trends, I think I had mentioned that banks are really heavily involved in branch transformation right now. Trying to figure out, what they should be doing at the branch. A lot of, I work with ATM Marketplace, and a lot of branches are trying to move less important or less complex, let's say, not necessarily less important, because your deposit to your checking account may be very important to you, but less complex activities to self-service. So that would be, moving it to an ATM or an assisted self-service device. And digital transformation can be a really important part of that educational process as branches begin to transform and change the way they do business. The digital signage that you're using can help make customers comfortable with that process, can help inform customers about the different ways that they can do a transaction instead of just having to wait in line at a teller line. So it can be really, digital signage in that context can be extremely important just as a way to sort of acquaint customers or members with your changing mission, I should say, at the branch, and how they can use the branch to their best advantage and make the experience more convenient and faster for them.
Well, thank you, Suzanne. Our last question today is, what role do you feel digital signage will play in this future of banking, specifically with, branch transformation?
I think digital signage will be increasingly important in the branch, just as a means to because the branch is becoming less of a teller interaction kind of environment, with self-service opportunities in the branch. I think that digital signage can help make that personal connection, even when the customer or member is not necessarily there to see a teller. It can still have a really warm presence for that customer and help to create a brand experience and a customer experience that produces loyalty and a sense of belonging.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Suzanne.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. And I want to remind our listeners, if you're interested in hearing more from Suzanne, you can follow her by reading her articles on ATM Marketplace or following our newsletter at World of Money. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thanks.
Do you want to communicate better? Visix can help you engage, excite, and inform your audience with award-winning digital signage software, content designs, and room signs. We're passionate about visual communications, and we're here to ensure your digital signs fit your culture, infrastructure, and budget, so you can communicate better. Learn more today at Visix.com.
All right, welcome back to the Digital Signage Today podcast. I'm joined today with Sean Matthews, who is CEO and president of Visix, and he'll be talking with us today about customer experience technology. Sean, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing very well, Bradley. Thank you for having me on today.
Yes, thank you so much. So we'll get started here. So customer experience technology is rapidly rising in all sectors. What are some trends you notice in this area?
Well, I think we see a lot of interactive experiences, particularly in the retail and consumer spaces. So whether you're at a store buying clothes or at a quick serve restaurant placing an order, you're seeing a lot of interactive experiences there. And a lot of it, of course, is triggered by things like near field communications, whether you're using Bluetooth driven technologies or apps associated with that Bluetooth, so that you can gain more out of the experience based on trends that you may have established through your own buying habits. And in our case, we're seeing a lot more in the corporate campus and college campus environments where interactive experiences didn't really exist before. And historically, in those spaces, oftentimes signs were treated much more like billboards than any sort of interactive experience. A corporate communicator was trying to, cram information down our throats as we passed by on our way to the break room or something. So, one thing we're seeing is a lot more interactive experience to create a better passerby or consumer experience in the workplace or in some sort of, campus environment.
Thank you. So one area that we see a lot of development on is dynamic content. You hear that as a big catchphrase, the digital signage space, but it's also can be potentially very expensive. What are some ways end users can integrate dynamic content without breaking the bank?
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of the technologies that are out there are provided by third-party service providers, companies like SceneSpire and Tint and ScreenFeed, and they're all charging fees for this dynamic content. And oftentimes they're having to charge fees because they're having to license a particular technology, like the automated curation of social media content is. Unfortunately, it's a patented technology, and as a result, these guys are having to charge money for it. And of course, there are a lot of other services like flight information display, stock info, that kind of stuff that all come with some sort of fee. But the real way to do it, if you wanted to minimize the cost associated with it, is to really use your own data. And so if you're using your own data to affect what is on screen, whether it be in the form of KPIs, sales performance, quote performance, manufacturing or production productivity, call center statistics, all that kind of stuff can easily be delivered at no cost because you already own the data. So what appears on screen is information that you're providing, again, at no cost. And in some cases, it can be very, very simple, data-driven content in the form of days without incidents. Countdown clocks are very popular, counting down to the next big event or the next trade show or a sporting event on a college campus. All of that dynamic information, really it comes at no cost because they're just points in time or other reference data. And one trend that currently is playing out is the use of data visualization. And you can't really confuse like data activated artwork or content that is changed based on certain parameters. Things like Microsoft BI and other data visualization dashboards are becoming quite popular. And if you've already made that investment in something like Microsoft BI, then you already have access to that information and that visualization really at no additional cost to put it on displays in your organization.
Great. So with that in mind, what do you kind of see happening in the near future in this world of customer experience technology?
Well, I think you're going to continue to see more and more automated content because, again, things like these dashboards really draw from a wide variety of information sources and then turn data into information or visualization that's designed to affect human behavior and really designed to affect productivity or solicit some sort of reaction or response to that information. And additionally, I think you're going to see much greater interaction with the displays. I mentioned a minute ago trying to change the medium from being a billboard within your organization to an interactive experience that you can customize to your own presence in front of the screen. And I do think that it's definitely trending in that direction away from just 5 years ago of just almost static information being presented on screen.
Thank you. And with that in mind, what is some ways that Visix is working in this space?
Well, we obviously want to create the most interactive experience that we can so that, again, you can customize yourself what your interaction looks like on screen. And one of the ways that we're doing it is incorporating really voice user interface. So if you think about the same model that Amazon and Google and Siri are all using with their microphone arrays, in our case, instead of walking up to the display and interacting with your fingers, you can just walk up to the display and talk to it. And so in a wayfinding scenario, if you're looking for a particular store, or let's say in a hospital, you're looking for the gift shop, and you think about the hospital environment, it's the perfect environment to eliminate the touch element and just incorporate the voice integration so that we can ask the display, where's the gift shop? And of course, it can respond with directions on screen. It can map our route. And in fact, if we want it to text us directions, we can just ask the display to text directions to our number and articulate our number to the display, and it shows up on our phone. So that's one of the things that we're doing, that's a little different and unique. And I don't want to call it bleeding edge because, Alexa and all these other things have been around for a while, but taking that technology and porting it over into this other signage experience.
Right. And also, obviously, with hospitals, having that technology can sort of, prevent people from getting germs on the touchscreens. And so the last question we had for today was, are there any innovative technologies you would like to highlight?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question because, oftentimes, when I listen to other people talking about technologies, often what they're talking about are things that are just so bleeding edge, it's going to be years before we actually see them. But I do think that one thing that I constantly run into, whether it's an integration partner doing this or a client asking for it or a client trying to replicate something else that they've seen, and that is, the incorporation of other new and unique display technologies. A lot of guys have these displays that can bend or flex and or transparent, and that technology is just evolving really quickly, along with projection technologies. And the reason I think that this is really, quite frankly, relatively innovative in this space is because historically, I mean, for decades, digital signs have been really black rectangles, mounted to walls and hallway intersections and elevator bays and that kind of stuff. But now you can actually transform the experience and transform the physical structure that you're working in into something more than just like a hardened display on the wall, painting imagery on the wall and having that imagery change based on, other inputs. It really changes the entire physical experience in terms of what you might see in your business environment.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Sean, and sharing your insights with us.
Great. Thank you, Bradley.
Thank you. Bye-bye.